Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we're back. And Julie, today is July the 19th.
Yes.
And we are in Boise, Idaho.
Yes, along the river, meeting with lots of great friends and colleagues and coaching clients. It's been fantastic to see everyone.
Our little Harris, not even little if you call over 6,000 miles probably in 20 states. It's hardly little. But that's what we're going to end up doing, and it's picking up momentum. Every state we go to, there's more and more people reaching out wanting to meet with us, and it's fantastic. And for those of you who are interested in doing so, we do have a map of where we're going to be, and we're going to post it on Instagram today. And if you guys want to message us and communicate with us, you can always text me at 512-758-0206. But the best way really is just to message us through Instagram, because that's where we're going to be posting pictures and travel updates and all that good stuff. And that's Tim and Julie Harris, and it's on Instagram. So hashtag Tim and Julie Harris, and you'll find us easily. And so that drive from where we were to here, where did we drive from? Remind me.
Gardner, Montana.
Yeah.
Which is the kind of the southwest corner right outside of Yellowstone. The original entrance to Yellowstone, which is kind of charming, over here to Boise, and we stopped at Idaho Falls along the way.
Right, and it was unbelievable how many wild animals, I don't even know what you want to call them, the elks and the bears and all these types of things that you see in Yellowstone when you get off the beaten path, and they're just pretty much right there. And I have to say, the things that always amused me when we were it was Gardner, right? Mm-hmm. Where they had to post signs telling people like to stay within a certain distance from these wild animals. And I put some of these pictures on Instagram, I just found that unbelievably funny in a way, because where in the world do you have to be coming from, or where you have to be told not to pet some 20-foot tall, 1,000-pound elk
multi-antlered,
exactly what I'm saying,
way bigger than you.
Do I really need a sign telling me not to pet the damn thing?
I know.
I mean,
I know.
Yeah, but we did. It was unbelievable. We were driving through this town, and there was this herd of elk that were just everywhere, and I saw in the distance, I think I mentioned this on our last show, I saw in the distance this massive elk, and we thought for sure, well, there has to be just a statue that, whatever, the bank or whatever put in their front lawn, and it wasn't. It was a male elk, and it was just enormous. And just all these tourists were maybe within, 6 feet from the thing, taking selfies and whatnot, and the cop had to tell people to go away. But the elk truthfully didn't care. No. He was used to it.
Just having, kind of a little look around.
He was an elk influencer, probably.
Apparently. He liked it.
But this is something, we've been asked to talk about, our experiences that are a little bit, I think, surprising. And I'll tell you some of the experiences we're having that are surprising. Specifically, hotels are extremely hard to find. Inflation is real. Things are super expensive. What you hear about on the news and what you read about, intellectualize about on the podcast like Julie and I do, to experience it in real time is really quite astounding. And I'm going to mention this over and over again, because it's really important you guys are paying attention to that, for example, hotels, Julie's booking our hotels usually 2 and 3 days in advance, sometimes just a couple days in advance. And even in, where are we going next after Boise?
Kennewick, Washington.
Kennewick, Washington, where Lance and Karen Kenmore are.
Yes.
And in Kennewick, Washington, Julie had a hard time finding a hotel room. Mm-hmm. And even there, it was surprising. And then after that, we're headed up to where?
Blaine, Washington.
Blaine, Washington, we're going to be meeting with Glenn Sanford, who's the founder and CEO of EXP.
Which is quite possibly, with the exception of Hawaii, the furthest away from Puerto Rico we probably can make ourselves.
But isn't that funny? Think about that on a map.
I know, it's crazy. Completely diagonal.
Yeah, and so then after that, we're going to head down. I'm just foreshadowing where we're going to be. And then we're heading down the coast. We're obviously going to go through Oregon and then into California and whatnot. And we'll be announcing the cities we're going to. We're not trying to commit ourselves to anything more than maybe a day or two in advance, because frankly, we just might get a wild hair to go look at this or go look at the other thing.
Or stay a few more days in one place than the other.
Yeah.
I think we're headed to the Redwood area of Northern California, though, so that's something we probably want to hit for sure.
We haven't even decided whether or not how much time we're going to spend in San Francisco, for example, but we want to go through San Francisco. And then for those of you guys who are car nerds, like Julie and I are, we're definitely going to be one hard date, or a week of hard dates we have, is we're staying in the Monterey Peninsula in Carmel by the Sea, correct? Mm-hmm. And that's going to be something that, I mean, it's going to be
Those are for sure dates. August 8th to 15th, I believe, is roughly correct.
Right. So if you're anywhere in that area, definitely connect with us. We're going to be very easy to meet with because, like I said, we're trying to keep as light of agendas as possible. We're meeting with, 15 agents here in about a half hour?
Yep.
Here in Idaho.
Yes, but I know that we've got a lot of people in that California area, in Salinas and San Francisco. You can drive up from LA, of course. People like Federico Salvatore are nearby.
Ben Salem's down in LA. We're going to visit with him.
And we have several that are right there on the Monterey Peninsula. So hopefully we see all of you guys.
And we're probably going to go all the way down to San Diego. And there's some people, Aaron Simons, who we're hoping to meet with. Monica Reynolds, our friend, who's been a great friend of ours forever. We're hoping to meet with her. Just all kinds of different people all over the place. This is great. Oh, and then we got invited to go stop by Iowa on the way.
Stop by. You make it sound so easy.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Pop
into Iowa. So we're going to be somewhere in Iowa. This is obviously skipping a lot of states. We're going to go to Utah, and we're hoping to surprise our friend from high school who's the mayor of Park City.
Park City, yep.
Andrew Bierman. Yeah, so we're going to stop in and see him. Hopefully he's around for us to visit. But just all kinds of different places. This is just a real way for us to have an adventure, obviously. Celebrate what appears to be the end of real COVID. The pandemic still lingers in some markets. I understand. By the way, Julie, did I tell you, in LA, they're masking again?
Good thing I have some in the car.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's what this is all about. And, man, it's wonderful. I have to say, it's wonderful to be back in the United States after being in Puerto Rico for basically 2 years straight.
Nothing against Puerto Rico, but, it was a little isolated island there for a while.
Well, how you can read signs here. You don't have to, put your Spanish translator
Double backwards translating.
Right. You could talk to people without having to, figure out how much, okay, that's the end of their English. That's the end of my Spanish.
I know,
out comes the Google app.
I'm still in the back of my head thinking, how do I say that in Spanish? I'm kind of deprogramming that for the next week or so.
So one of the things that we've been following is what's happening in, obviously, the real estate markets. That's our primary concern. Here, of course, Julie and I can't stop doing it. Here in Boise, we were looking at Realtor.com. We try to avoid Zillow, but we were looking at Realtor.com and seeing what was for sale. And again, we talked to Jonna Weber yesterday. She's part of our EXP group. She's a fantastic agent. She sells, I think she said 80 houses a year. Just a wonderful, wonderful gal. If you're in the Boise, Idaho area, make sure you reach out to her. And we talked yesterday about her expanding her real estate team because she has too many leads. So definitely if you're in the Boise area, reach out to Jonna Weber. But we were talking about the market here. And the market here, even in Boise, which let's say, how do you describe Boise?
I think it's, I don't know. It does kind of remind us of like a Midwestern town out west. Sort of a normal, it's surrounded by mountains.
It's like where you and I grew up, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of
minus the mountains, right? We had cornfields.
Exactly.
Right? But I mean, this is
beautiful river.
The old joke is if the world ever comes to an end, you want to be in a place like Columbus, Ohio, where we're from, or Boise, because then you still have another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
it's that far behind. But I mean, the truth is, it's nice.
It is nice. It's cozy. People are very friendly.
Totally.
Very outdoorsy. People are out doing stuff along the river. I didn't know that you could surf in a river, for example.
Did you get a picture of that, by the way?
Not yet, but I'm going to. Zoe couldn't believe it either. So my first thought was, okay, so I'm not a surfer. Obviously, we're from Ohio, but I get surfing in the ocean. You wipe out. You have hopefully a fairly good landing, and then I was thinking, you surf in a river and you wipe out. Aren't you knocking your head into some rocks?
I honestly looked at those gentlemen trying to surf in that river, and I just sort of felt sorry for them.
Yeah, well, at least they were wearing helmets, so I'm still putting all that together.
So from a guy's perspective, I'm telling you right now, the whole game there was to look cool, look like a surfer.
Yeah, but meet the girls.
And meet the girls. That's what that whole is. There's 4 dudes holding under a bridge, and there's a little bit of white water, and they're acting like they're surfing for about 6 inches. That was the whole scene.
Yeah.
And people told us about, did you see the surfers on the river?
The river surfers. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're from Puerto Rico, people.
Yeah, we've seen
Come on
surfing.
Now. We've seen people kite surf.
Yes, but we appreciate the effort because, they are kind of far away from an ocean.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, like I said, this reminds me of Columbus, Ohio. You're making the most of what you've got.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, so listen, as far as our travel journal, that's what we have for you. But on to business. Now, by the way, this is something I should talk about too.
Yes.
And we do have a great topic for you guys for this week. Do be really drilling down on the podcast we did last week. I was worried, truthfully, that when we did all this podcast, it was centered primarily on EXP, that we would get some negative pushback, and quite the opposite happened. We had actually a ton of people reach out to us and asking more questions about EXP. And here's the bottom line. And this is something you have, I don't know, almost, I was going to say moral obligation, and that's probably too strong, but you really have an obligation to yourself and your future self's finances to take a hard look at EXP Realty, because the overall value that they're offering, I put a call on speakerphone this morning, a wonderful lady from Massachusetts named Judy. Yeah. That was about a half hour ago. And she listened to the podcast, and she really understood the overall value. And when you hear the energy and enthusiasm from her voice, it's the reason I put it on speakerphone so Julie and Zoe could listen. I mean, that's the level. Once you get it, once the switch is flipped in your head and you understand why EXP Realty is growing so fast and why it really can create alternative financial universes for yourself, it's something you have to take seriously. And we made it easy for you guys to do this exploration on yourself. Just go to whylibertas.com, whylibertas, Libertas.com, whylibertas.com. That's Julie and I's EXP Revenue Share Group. And watch the videos. There's 2 videos at the top. There's one big video when you land on the page. Watch that video, and then there's another video right after that one. Watch both of those videos, and you could do it to comfort your own home, and you could do it sitting at Starbucks or at home having a glass of wine. It doesn't matter. Watch those 2 videos, and that will pretty much convince you. And those videos are the first set of videos, or the first videos of people who are singing the praises of their experience having moved to EXP and being part of our Libertas group. And the second video is essentially explaining the value proposition that EXP offers to agents and brokers. But it is really incredible I feel incredibly lucky to be part of EXP in this massive growth curve that they're on. I mean, when we were talking with John and her husband last night, and we were talking about where this company is in terms of, mass acceptance and all the rest of it,
sure.
It's just barely out of the early adopter phase. And it's so incredible to see people like Judy this morning who completely get it and realize that if they realize it is what they've been always hoping and looking for.
Well, and I think that it really resonated with Judy after last week's podcast series and after she went to whylibertas.com and really got it. I could feel the light bulb go off in her head in a way.
You could hear it.
Yeah, and the energy and enthusiasm. And you were talking about, in a way it's kind of morally irresponsible not to do it. I would say on some level, but certainly fiscally irresponsible to not at least be educated on it, and then you can make the right decision for you.
Again, moral's a strong word.
I would say fiscally.
But here's the thing, though, I was thinking about every time I talked, like Jonna last night.
Sure.
And, Judy today, I'm always thinking about I'm imagining in my head the conversation I'm having with them, like I'm fortunate enough to be having with so many other people that joined with us, 2.5 years ago or whatever. I'm looking forward, and I want desperately for those people to have the conversations 6 months or a year from now or 2 years from now, like I'm having from the people that have been with us.
Right,
for that
where they
long.
can say, thank you, past Judy, for making that decision.
Exactly.
Thank you. And Jonna certainly has that note of gratitude to herself of making that decision.
I had a call, don't remember the guy's name. And, I remember now. Yancey, actually. It wasn't a call. We met him we met him in the hotel.
Jackson, Wyoming.
Jackson. And he said, I'm 50 years old and I'm in great health and I'm getting in better health. And he has a little baby, actually, to get, and the whole thing. And I'm motivated, more motivated than I've ever been before. And then he says, he goes, I'm going to sell real estate the rest of my life. To which I said, okay, it's nice to be able to sell real estate. It's nice to be able to physically and mentally and emotionally be still in the game for sure. But why would you want to put yourself in a financial situation where you had to versus creating alternatives through revenue share? And then we sat down with him and I showed him basically how revenue share works on a yellow tablet of paper. And he didn't, Yancey's a very, talkative guy. And he didn't say anything for like 15 minutes straight.
Yeah, flabbergasted.
Because he never completely got it. He didn't understand.
Well, you have to do the projections.
Right.
And these projections are not like, well, this could happen in 10 or 20 years. I think your projections are starting with the next 90 days and then blowing it out for 2 to 5 years.
Well, I do it. I'll sit down with someone. I'm going to do it to the group we're going to meet with today. And I'll show them how to do basically how to look at the numbers from a very ultra conservative perspective over 24 months.
But realistic.
Right. But realistic. And when someone sees that and you tell them, okay, you have to do these, 3 to 5 things. And statistically, this is what's going to happen based on the experience of thousands and thousands of agents. When they realize that they could essentially have income that's coming in passively from some source other than transactional income, when they just, so like the resistance is emotionally accepting it. And once you get past it, once you say, okay, this is real, I can set my skeptic aside. And I certainly was plagued with skepticism for a long time. That's the reason we didn't align earlier. But once you basically move past that and you look at it for what it is and you realize the genius behind it, it's like, you can't not stop thinking about it. There's something inside of you that's it's the epiphany thing. It's the aha moment that some people get to a certain age and you just figured, well, I'm not going to get too many more of those. I'm sort of on my treadmill for the rest of my life. And then you have one, and you have one unexpectedly, and then all of a sudden your world pivots. And that's, I mean,
reignited.
I love those experiences.
I know, me too. Especially we're doing a lot of those in person right now.
Yeah, we are.
And we can literally see the light bulb go off and the ignition switch be relit. And, none of this is speculative. All this is proven. I think it's extra special for them to meet their colleagues who are already there. Maybe they're a year or two ahead. It's been done. It's being done. None of this is really speculation.
Right.
It's real math. You can't argue with it.
If you guys are ready to join EXP, and Julie, let's get to our point.
Yes.
If you're ready to join EXP and you're looking for a sponsor that's obviously going to be very proactively involved in your success, please do consider Julie and I. We're formally applying for the job of being your EXP sponsor. You can go to whylibertas.com and you can check it out. And there's all the information you could possibly imagine on EXP is there. But moving forward, if you're ready to move forward and you want to consider Julie and I as your sponsor, you can just text me directly. Now, technically, you can just join and name Julie Harris as your sponsor without texting me first. But I do like to talk to everybody. So 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. And guys, listen, I'm sitting in the car tomorrow for 5 hours.
And that is actually your phone number.
Yeah, I know people always think it's not. Yeah, but I'm sitting in the car tomorrow for 5 hours. Look, I'm driving a wonderful Audi RS6 Avant. It's fantastic and comfortable, but it does get boring. So I'd love to talk with some of you about EXP tomorrow or the following day when we drive up to Washington State. How long is that one? You didn't tell me yet.
I think that's 4.5.
Okay, that's not bad. That's easy.
Maybe 3.5.
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. So look, there it is. And check out the videos on Libertas before we have a conversation. That way we can all be, talking from the same script. All right,
Yes.
On to our topic. So we've been paying attention and promising that we would always give you guys heads up when we saw any sort of shifting sands. And this goes back to a concept that Julie and I created a long time ago called early warning signs. Now, as pertains to coaching specifically, early warning signs that you are losing your momentum might be that you stop proactively lead generating, you stop doing lead follow-up.
Your voicemail's full.
Right. So in the coaching realm, there's lots of early warning signs that we look out for with coaching clients. And basically, they're things you can monitor. They're like your vital signs for your business. But we also monitor the same thing for the real estate markets. And we try to, and the problem with real estate nowadays is it's become very politicized. So you have to really sift and sort and filter who you're listening to for information. And fortunately, Julie and I feel like we have got a lot of people that are more or less neutral in the information they provide. So here's what we've been noticing. And I want to give you guys a disclaimer before we start getting into the weeds here. And this is the show we're going to do for the entire week. Is that the market is definitely adjusting. There's definitely more inventory coming for sale. And some of the things that Julie is going to share with you are they're statistical facts. But here's the counterbalance to it. And this is what we've been experiencing. And maybe a lot of you guys are on the road yourselves. Is there are a ton of people that are taking essentially a lot of downtime this summer, like probably never has been seen before. We heard a statistic that there's more people traveling now than there have been at any one time in the past 10 years. I guess the peak prior to this was something like July of 2019 or something, but now there's more people traveling. So in our opinion, the reason that we're seeing a slight slowdown in housing markets might be specifically because people are essentially taking some downtime. We're seeing it in the number of people that read our newsletter, the number of people that are just the whole across the board. There's usually a lull in the summer for sales for most businesses because, again, people are out enjoying life. But this year, it does seem like there might be some more meaningful slowdown happen because people are essentially dusting off the pandemic, weeds in essence.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that said, Julie, let's talk about the research you did.
Yes. And again, this is going to be all week, so we can stop whenever you're ready to. Okay, so here's the title. Is there a surprise housing slowdown? Forbes, CNBC, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, and Redfin, and others are all suggesting this. So we're going to deep dive into what is actually happening out there. I've got just a couple of quotes from these different sources. So the Wall Street Journal said, quote, an uptick in inventory. Aren't you guys all waiting for that? Especially at the high end is bringing a crazy seller's market back to earth. And then from Norada Real Estate Investments, this is a big investment company that looks for rental opportunities and things of that nature. That quote is, the decline in time on market has slowed for the first time in nearly 4 months, indicating that some properties are sitting on listing portals for a little longer. These market trends point to a positive development for buyers as we enter into the crucial home buying season of 2021. Additionally, compared to last year, the number of newly listed properties is also increasing, and the sharp inventory losses of recent months have moderated. The net result has been a deceleration in the growth of listing prices. While home prices are still rising at double-digit rate, they have passed their peak growth rates. That's from them. And then just this morning, I'm going to switch to this one real quick.
Now here's the danger. I just want to throw this out
Yes.
there. Here's the danger in basically thinking prices are going to fall.
Yeah, don't overreact.
If you misinterpreted what Julie just said, the prices are not falling. The rate of growth is declining. We're still looking at price appreciation, though it's truly inflation. We're still looking at increase in prices by 15 to 20% this year.
And this one is even a little bit more. This is from Housing Wire, which primarily reports on mortgage trends, and I'm only going to do the first two paragraphs.
Sure.
Here. Home sales fell 1.2% from May to June, the largest drop at this time of year on record since 2012, according to Redfin. The national median home sale price hit a record high of $386.8, which is up 25% year over year, but a slight decline from the record of 26% in May. The number of homes for sale fell 28% year over year, and the typical home did sell in 14 days, a record low, down from 39 days in 2020. Okay, so that's some more reporting. I'm going to get back to our outline here. So there's all these sources that are reporting, well, we've got a little bit of a crack in this, but it's not dramatic. I want to be very clear that we are not expecting some kind of housing crash. Remember, a 24 to 26% year over year, and it doesn't do that for 1 month by 1%, is not the end of the world.
No, and so for those of you who are thinking that somehow the sky's going to fall, it isn't falling.
That's not what we're saying.
Matter of fact, just because we have to go to our meeting, I'll give you this as well. If you're yourself looking to buy a house, or if you have buyers that are looking to purchase a house, rates are still low. Yeah. I cannot think of a single reason, even if you do have to pay above what you perceive to be top of the market, I absolutely positively, and Julie and I are ultra conservative. We're boring people from Ohio fundamentally, right? And we're conservative. But I would strongly caution all of you not to wait and to buy immediately. And here's why. Even if prices were to fall slightly, or, which they won't, or maybe in some markets, or they were to start leveling off in terms of the price increases, the Fed last week came out and said they're going to stop buying, essentially things to make mortgage interest rates lower, or they're considering it. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. I think what's going to happen is they're actually going to look at this information that's coming out about the housing market, and they're not going to raise rates. But if they were to, a slight increase in rates will more than, how do I say this? The house payment that someone would have to pay would be, even if the rates increased, would be greater in some cases than even if the price were to be, slightly less than what it's.
You're still going to be ahead.
Right. You're still going to be ahead if you buy now. And if you can lock in a long-term mortgage interest rate at today's rates, you're going to win the game. Long-term, you're going to win. So buy now. Tell your buyers to buy now. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are probably taking themselves out of the market, and that might be unfortunately, in a lot of markets, they're going to have to because they can't be competitive financially. And we've talked about all this on the podcast in the past. But the reality of it is the momentum is still very much in favor of long-term home ownership, more than any time in Julie and I's professional career of over 20 years.
Yes, and if we continue to see a little bit more inventory and a little bit of slowing, that's good for your buyers. They have more choices. We're going to talk about that in a second. So all of you have the responsibility and the accountability of watching your own market where you sell in. So how do you know when your market is adjusting? What are the factors you need to be monitoring? We're going to answer all these questions on today's podcast and running into the rest of the week. There are 6 key factors to monitor.
For brevity, why don't we just go through point number 1? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So again, we will be going through these. So maybe you want to take notes. Point number 1, factors to monitor. Number 1, monitor the number of new listings coming on the market this week versus last week. Know the total number of listings your market usually has. For example, I watch this every day with the Austin report that I get, okay? Active listings have been hovering in Austin, for example, between 1,500 and 1,700. For probably 90 days, they were in the 1,500s, and certainly for the last 6 months. And this week, Austin just hit over 1,800 actives after it steadily went through the 1700s and climbed every day for probably 10 days. That is a noticeable shift. Now, how do you figure that out? Use your MLS hot sheet. Your listreports.com is good. When you see the number of new listings increase, your market is shifting towards a balanced market, or at least a less competitive one. Make sense?
It does. Now, just with that said, 300, not that many to really, most people weren't even going to notice it. But I remember when, Julie and I were coaching agents, and it was around 2000 and really early 2007, but really late 2006, we had coaching clients in virtually every major market in the country. And I remember Julie and I, we were comparing what our coaching clients' experiences were specifically in San Diego, Las Vegas, and certain parts in Southern Florida. And what we were looking for, and again, what are your coaching clients experiencing? What are they saying? Days in the market, all these types of things. So we were on the front lines asking agents, even way before, like Redfin's using past information, right? All these articles that Julie and I are going to be sharing content from you, they're all looking in the past, and they're throwing out guesses as to what the future is going to be because of the position that we are in. Because we coach agents, we coach all you guys, and we're on the front lines in the coaching industry. We're able to know what's going to happen based on what your actual experiences are, not what's happened. So why
Boots on the ground stuff.
Right. So why am I telling you this? Because what we saw back then in late 2006 is we saw inventory build way more than this, but we saw inventory build, and then we saw it sell off. And it went through that cycle maybe 3 times to the point where it built and it didn't sell off. And that's when I don't remember, the New Century or something. That's when the first major subprime mortgage company failed that was in Southern California. So again, hot market, crazy market. Everyone and their brother was going to buy 10 houses. It was insane back then. Not like that now. Virtually no mortgage requirements. You didn't even have to fog a mirror.
It was the Wild West.
You didn't even have to know how to spell a mirror. You could get a mortgage, right? And so then the houses basically, then all of a sudden went from a crazy hot seller's market, and then inventory built. And okay, what's that all about? It's because you're seeing that the air was coming out of what was legitimately a bubble back then, and that people were feeling less confident because, the shoe shine guy that bought 3 houses all of a sudden couldn't get one of them rented, or was
and they couldn't refinance out of it.
Exactly. And a lot of the mortgages were back then were ninja loans, no income, no job, no assets. And also you had a lot of people that were buying just for the idea that they were going to appreciate. So they bought it, they put a real short-term loan on it. The loan was up for a refi, or it was going to adjust. They couldn't essentially
they wanted to flip.
Right. And they wanted to flip basically. And all that hype that was in the market is no longer in this market. Now, what happened again? Inventory build up, inventory sold off. And Julie and I saw over it wasn't even 12 months, but about.
Yeah, I remember specifically because we have a lot of Las Vegas agents.
Yep.
The inventory went from 8,000 to 14,000 in probably about 6 to 8 months after bubbling up and down a little bit, selling a little bit off. Until the cat was out of the bag that maybe we're not going to have this crazy pricing anymore. Do we think that that's going to happen this time? No, this is completely different circumstances. About 60 days ago, we did a series on why this is not just like that. If you are reading stuff online, especially on some of the realtor sites that says, oh, this is just like 2007, 2008, that is absolutely incorrect. We're not expecting anything like that. Why we're reporting on this week is because there's a little adjustment going on out there, and you're going to be getting questions from your prospects and your clients. Should I wait? Do you think it's going to crash? What's going on out there? I see a little bit more inventory. This is, I think, a good thing because it's leveling off perhaps a little bit. Now, it also could be a mini bubbling up and down too.
I personally think this is just because people are taking
I think
time
it's a
off
hiccup
the summer.
too.
Yeah, I don't think there's any, because all the reasons why the market's going to stay hot for a long period of time
are still in place.
They're more true now than they even were when we did that series on our podcast. And so, look, guys, bottom line, we're going to give you the rest of this. We're giving you these stats. We're giving you this information.
Well, we're educating them how to watch their market so they see, because not all markets are the same. What's happening here in Boise is going to be different than Miami.
Even here in Boise, for example, you could have micro markets, right? You could have these markets, one market's crazy hot, and then another market maybe 5 miles away where things sit on the market for 60 to 90 days. You've got to really become an expert. And if you want to know why people become really successful long-term in real estate, is because they know stuff like that, like what we're sharing with you, and because they can then talk about it with fluidity. They can have a conversation with confidence about what's actually happening in the market. And when you can talk with, essentially anybody about the market, and you can say something other than it's a great time to buy.
Yeah, and use facts.
Yeah, and use facts and stats, and you can actually be an expert. That's how you get business, because people will see you as being different from the agent who's just obviously there to schlep a house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
at the end of the day,
we will continue with the rest of the points. And then later in the week, we are going to work into making sure you know the difference. What is even a balanced market? We're not mentioning that we're swinging to a buyer's market or anything like that, but you've got to know how to assess that. And it's, again, not just your exact market, but every time you go on a listing appointment, what's that neighborhood look like? So we're going to teach you how to do that.
What would you do if you were listening to this, right? The number one thing all of you should seriously consider is don't do what everybody else is doing. So in a market like this, and the market that's going to come after this, if you've been investing a lot of money in things that might someday hopefully one day when all the stars align, pay you. That'd be lead generation, branding, building your team, and all that type of stuff. Look, all those things may have a place in your business, but the reality of it is the urgency right now is for you to become a listing agent. When you become a listing agent, the ebbs and the flows in the market do not affect you because you're going to sell houses whether the prices go up or down. And motivated sellers, which we teach you how to lead generate, are going to have to sell the house no matter whether the prices are going up or down, whereas buyers take themselves out of the market. Because remember, and this is critical that you understand this, there's no such thing as a buyer that has to buy. There are such things as sellers that have to sell. And if you're investing all your time in buying buyer leads for people that could just change their mind if they decide to take a summer vacation or interest rates go up to a quarter point, you will starve and go out of business. So that's the reason the smartest agents have always been, always will be listing agents. Our coaching program obviously teaches you all facets of building your real estate business, but primarily how to become a powerful listing agent. If you want to learn more about our coaching program, go over to timandjulieharris.com and then click on coaching. The coaching program all of you should start with is Premier Coaching. It's the, I don't know, probably from what we're gathering from feedback, the most popular coaching program in the United States right now, based on the number of agents that are joining and the feedback that we get. And it's amazing, really emotional for us because it's the fruition of our life's work.
It's what we do.
That people appreciate,
Exactly.
And you can join Premier Coaching for around $100 a month. So guys, do not procrastinate on that. timandjulieharris.com. You then click on coaching, Premier Coaching. That's your homework from today's show. And we'll talk with you guys on the show tomorrow. For those of you who are in the Boise area, it's not too late for you to meet with us. We're meeting with a group starting here in about 15 minutes. And Julie, what's the name of the hotel? You tell them.
The Riverside Hotel in Boise.
In Boise.
Easy to find.
Yeah, easy to find. You guys have a great day.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows, and until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.